Welcome to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Ain't another place that has got more bombast. Romp past your mom, dad's listening to Tomcats. Talking everything that make you sad. We don't want that. We're here to make you smile. Put your mind at ease. Peace, love, and bloom, and always praise Keanu Reeves. This what we about. This some weeding now. We'll talk until we can't no more, and then we peacing out. Alright, let's go. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in for another episode of the Penny Bloom Podcast. 'Tis I, Colton Robertson, and you are joining me here on our 52-year journey through film. It is week 10, 1979. We're wrapping up the 70s, and who am I joined by other than Joseph George, getting us all the way through the 70s here? How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's always a pleasure to be here, and this was a good film to wrap up the 70s with. That's for sure.
I mean, feels indicative of the era, the counterculture, anti-war sentiment of the time. You know, we're talking 1979's Apocalypse Now. And now, interestingly enough, we both did watch the Apocalypse Now Redux, which was technically released in 2001. However, we're going to go ahead and talk,
we got the whole
version.
movie plus some. So, if anything, we watched the original and some of the director's cut.
And some.
So, yeah.
Exactly. So let's lay the groundwork for the people. Apocalypse Now, released August 15th, 1979. Written by John Milius and Francis Ford Coppola. Narration by Michael Eyre. Based off a novella by Joseph Conrad, Heart of Darkness. Directed by Francis Ford Coppola. This is his third movie in the directorial chair of the 70s for us, as he did Godfather and Godfather 2.
Dude has quite the
rap sheet for our 70s. And I'm sure he has a good chance at Best Director for the 70s in our award show for the 70s. Go over there and listen to that if you after this, if you've caught up with our episodes. But this was a fucking good movie. I have reservations about war films a lot. Like they're typically they've got to be really well done to be good for me. Like
war
MASH,
can only go so
MASH
far.
MASH wasn't all that. Like that was an all right film. I appreciate the sentiment and the messaging and some of it, but it's just like it can fall flat. It really can.
And this, I don't know if this is a hot take. Could be. But honestly, the war kind of takes a back seat to the psychological story. I think that's what this movie I guess you could look at it through two lenses. You could either look at the war movie, look at it as a war movie, which it definitely is, or you could look at it as the
effects of war.
Yeah, the psychological. I mean, that's basically what this entire movie is.
Oh yeah,
about.
the entire movie is the soldiers' descent into madness. It seemed like the statement they're making is Marlon Brando's character, Colonel Walter Kurtz. You spend enough time there, you're gonna go crazy. That's they were like, oh man, this guy was top of his class. He was the best. He was the best of the best in the military. Could have been general. Could have done all this shit. But no. Even the best of the best of the best in the military went insane during this war.
A difference between this movie and MASH is while watching MASH, I really didn't get the feeling of, damn, war sucks.
It was certainly, the tone of the film. It's different. You're going for a comedy versus a drama.
But this is a movie, and it's much worse in actual war. You know, like
Yeah.
like this is like even though we're watching people get blown up and legs blown off and like crazy things, like this is still like a sheltered view of war, all kind of. And like it's just like this movie, I guess it had a lot like I mean, I guess it's like very easily just comparable to MASH because it's like the only other war
movie we
we've done
have
so
on
far.
our so far.
But they're like just way different movies. Like they're not
yeah,
even,
and but you know, they both capture a sentiment of the time. Like what they both kind of say something that needs to be said about the war. It's clear that there's not good war.
no. Has there
It
ever
all
been?
sucks. But yeah, they both capture something that, you know, kind of needs to be said about war at the time. Like it's nothing good can really come of it. No matter what, in war, everybody loses.
That's true. I mean, and they show that with every example. Like they make sure to let you know. Like I don't know. I just love the whole surfing side of this story. You know, just the sheer like
desensitization.
Yeah. Like he has like a woman, or I think it was a guy that was like his guts were being held in by like a pan or something like that. You know, and he's like, oh wait, you know, this guy fought valiantly. He can drink from my canteen anytime. But then they're like, hey, something about the waves, and he's like, oh,
fuck this. Yeah,
like
no. And he like spills the water, and it's like it captures this really interesting like faux hero complex of the American military in Vietnam. Like they feel like they are freeing and liberating, sort of. However, they're slaughtering villages, seemingly. That there are moments in this movie where I'm asking myself, who are they even fighting?
They didn't even touch the smallpox part of like the Vietnam War,
Right.
like the whole like like that wasn't even touched at all. It was just wiping out village. Like you got the idea, though. You know,
You certainly
they're here to come kill everybody. Don't care. No, it's just and what just a horrible time in history.
Oh my god, dude! I mean, like it's kind of like anytime there's a war, it's a horrible time in history. Like it's like there's shit happening that should not be happening. That's just an objective fact. And this was just a painful example at times, and that the way the distance is like further emphasized more and more throughout the movie between like a disconnect from reality for the soldiers, kind of like them rationalizing what's okay and what isn't okay. Like I think to Lawrence Fishburne's character, who wow, that is a young Lawrence Fishburne.
What was his name? Recognize him. Clean, yeah.
Clean, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good character. He was a really good character. And like I hate to say this, but like it was a movie in 1979, and as soon as they were like making him a really endearing character, I was like, he's gonna die.
Yep.
And then when they made the second most endearing character Chief, I was like, God damn, you're gonna kill both the black guys? Yep. That's what's gonna happen here? We're gonna kill both the black guys.
Say, even in MASH, you know, like I think there was like one of the first people to die, I believe, was black in MASH. One of the first people to die in this movie that's like on our side, I think.
Well, the first person you care about in the movie.
Yeah, that's true. I guess there's sort of like the who was the guy who was like he got his leg blown off, put in the helicopter, and then the helicopter blew up.
Oh yeah.
There was a sort of connection with that. You didn't know. You didn't know them though. So, but
it was interesting though too, because it really displayed this. Just even Lawrence Fishburne's character, a character who they did make really endearing at points, was outrageously racist against the Vietnamese. Like absurdly, like, to the point where they make a movement, he's blowing holes in that entire everybody in that boat.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
know what
think
I'm saying?
if you're over there, you have to do something to justify in your head killing all these people. You know,
Right.
like if you're not racist in the Vietnam War, like you're like the people who are like, I need to leave here. I don't want to be here. You know, like it's really either I'm not going to kill anyone because I don't want to, or like I'm going to kill everyone that I see in sight and it's going to be fun for me. Like that's
No, the militaristic mindset too is just so fascinating because it's like it's just kind of demented. Like there's no way around it. And it's not like no hate to soldiers or anything. That's not at all what I mean. But like the people above soldiers, the people who like send them into these situations, knowing exactly full well what will happen to them. And is like, because like I think that it can be said for the most part, certainly, that amongst the United States military, they typically mean well the soldiers themselves, you know, protecting freedom, et cetera, et cetera. That's really noble, and I appreciate the shit out of that. It's the people above them who are actually fighting for like oil and shit and cheap gas prices and stuff like that. It's like, oh, do we need thousands of people dying over this?
no.
Is that something that needs to be happening?
Did we really need a new state? You know?
Yeah. Do we really need to root out anything but capitalism that badly?
Like an interesting what if is like if the U.S. won the Vietnam War. Which every time a Vietnam movie comes on, I always think like, man, what if we would have won? Like I don't know. Like, I don't think I think it would be way worse if we would have won. Like
objectively,
yeah. And I guess the closest thing to that is The Watchmen, right? Like you actually kind of see it played out a little bit.
Yeah, there's that kind of what if plays out a little bit in the Watchmen series for sure.
Man, this is just a brutal war. And like the napalm, I didn't know that this is where
love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Yeah, I had no idea that this is where it came from. And whenever it came on, I'm like, oh, like this is cool.
Yeah, that was instantly the quote for me.
Yeah. And Robert Duvall's character, he played that role.
Dude, it's
well.
like this is his fourth movie he's been in for us in the 70s.
He's been
like
killing it.
He has been in the most movies of any actor across our 10 movies in the 70s. And he's been an incredible character in every single one of them. And it's so interesting because I've only ever seen Robert Duvall as the older man, like a father figure of some sort in stuff that I watch. And it's just so wild to see him like young playing different character roles. Like I don't know. There's just something about him that I don't know what I expected, but he's just kind of blown me away. And Martin Sheen in the main role here, like that's Uncle Ben, baby.
That was kind of weird, knowing that. Like, this is supposed to be the sound and critical mind that, you know, with great power comes great responsibility, and then you just, he just gets. It's a downward spiral, man. Like,
poor
for
guy,
him.
dude.
But, yeah, it was.
Well, and that's the thing is that he like starts the beginning of the movie. He's not in a good way.
No,
like he's clearly battling some post-war triggers that are certainly getting him going.
They made it known that this guy is suffering from PTSD already, like very quickly. Like the camera work. I guess it's more editing here, but like how they just literally overlaid like his face and then what he's seeing, the fan, and then the war. So like literally he can't even tell the difference between like
well, he's hearing the fan and it's reminding him
like
of the helicopters, and the helicopters take him to the war.
There's like no difference in reality. It's just like the war has taken over completely.
Yo, I'm curious. What was the budget
was $100 million originally. That's adjusted for inflation.
Okay.
Yeah, not $70 dollars.
Woo!
But they very
Okay.
quickly
I was
went
like,
over that.
hold
yeah, no.
the fucking phone. This was
No.
$100 million in 1979.
That's I know that was their original budget, but then they very quickly went over. So
yeah, it's a classic for great films.
31.5 million, and I think that's the 70s number. So 31.5 million.
It's just crazy to me that 31.5 million, like 40 years ago, is now $100 million.
Let's see. I want to make sure that we're doing like the conversion right. So yeah, it's about 120 million today. Actually.
God damn, that's an expensive flick. No matter how you slice it.
A lot of explosions, a lot of helicopter. They probably had to pay I don't know if I guess I haven't mentioned this yet, but these helicopters were actually given to Coppola by a military, like a legitimate military that was in war during this time. And I don't know if they paid the military for that or if
they
the
had
military
to.
just
They had
them.
to.
Yeah,
There's no way they just lent them.
So that has to be an insane amount of the budget for how many helicopter scenes there are, like just shots of helicopters.
And there was a scene with helicopters that I was like, that looks an awful lot like Yavin 4 in Star Wars, where the X-Wings are taking off and the guys watching them take off. Oh man, I was like, I think our boy took a little inspiration from our other boy, George Lucas here. And it was only that shot, and it was like really specific that it looked like almost the same, and I was just like, oh, if you know the shot in A New Hope, you know the shot, you probably recognized it, but it was fantastic.
And I did a little. Every after I watch the movie, I do like a little critical reading, like see what other people think, just to see if I'm, in the same boat. And I lost completely where I was going.
No, I feel you though. No, because I do a lot of the same thing, especially if it was a long ass movie. If it because this one was 3 hours and 15 minutes, I kind of do some reading to make sure I remember all the points that I want to touch on. And often I do some critical reading that I just straight up don't agree with. However, I want to touch on those points because I have the converse opinion.
I remember now. It came back to me, and that someone said they look at this movie in 3 parts. The first part of the movie is like a Western, and you follow like a cowboy, that's being told where to go, blah, blah, blah. Like it's more of a Western. Then the trumpet, whenever or whatever that, I don't think it's a trumpet, but it's a
no,
horn.
Yeah.
Some
I know
horn.
exactly. Starts
from that point and the helicopters take off, it's a war movie. That makes perfect sense. But then the last part of the movie is like the psychological, it dives very deeply into
just a character study, pretty much.
Exactly. And that's, I kind of agree with this. There were very distinct parts of the movie.
Absolutely. Certainly. Credit to this movie. My original plan was to record this tomorrow. So but with that in mind, I was going to watch an hour of it on Saturday night, an hour of it on Sunday night, and an hour of it on Monday night. And then you know what I did on Saturday night? I watched the whole fucking movie.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's hard. It's 3 hours and 15 minutes. And I usually, if I'm starting a movie that long, I plan on finding an intermission. I'll find a spot where I'm like, okay, that act is over. Let's go ahead and pause here. I just rode that thing out.
Even though there were parts that slowed down a bit. I mean, you were the story was so good that you were just so invested that you needed to know how these things were going to turn out.
And just the way that Martin Sheen's character just like hardly interacts with his boatmates, right? He is really, really enveloped in studying Kurtz. That was his name, right?
Mm-hmm.
And trying to understand his mindset. And he understood his mindset so much. It was so fascinating to see the way that he, like, because he ultimately does it, you know? He does the deed. But
it's
takes
like
his
history
spot.
repeating itself. Oh, yeah. He's becoming the man that he's sent to kill. Like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
It's perfect. No, and it just shows that, like, at a point there's no logic to it. To the fight. It's just kill or be killed. So go do it.
Mm-hmm. Crazy, the only bullet, or Martin Sheen's character only fired one bullet in the entire movie. And it was
really?
to kill the Vietnamese lady on the boat when she was going for the dog. It's the only time he actually fired a weapon. And the only other kill he has is Marlon Brando's character, which, holy crap. Like,
and the way they, like,
whoa.
it felt so Francis Ford Coppola, the way they lit him, and
just
barely
couldn't
they
even
showed
see the
face
dude
for
yeah.
like maybe 15 seconds.
Yeah, you could barely see him, but it's just like you knew that this dude, like, he's been building up this whole movie, you know, like I knew that this was Marlon Brando's character, you know,
right.
like the eventual, and I'm like, okay, like I'm waiting to get to it. Like I don't know even what this character looks like at all.
Oh,
I just know
I did
that this
not
is
anticipate
Marlon
him
Brando.
to look the way that he looked either. That shit knocked me on my ass. I was like,
Varys from Game of Thrones? I got Varys vibes so hard.
Varys vibes out the ass.
Like, I guess, like, Varys is very different from this character, but, like, some of the words, like, that they said, like, kind of, like, reminded me of, like, how Varys spoke sometimes. And, like,
no, I could see it.
But, yeah, like, he was just dark, menace. Even his last words, bro. Horror. Like, oh my, like, how do you write that? You have to be in some state of mind to, like, write this story and direct. Like, holy crap, like, this had to have taken a toll to make this movie. Like,
well, and didn't you say before we got on mic here that Francis Ford Coppola had, like, some serious mental health issues involved in making this movie?
Yeah, there were. He said that he was going to kill himself because of this movie many, many times, and he had to stop filming, and then even had a seizure, an epileptic seizure. I don't know the backstory behind that, but the idea was that there was just so much stress built up from this movie that this guy, like, just couldn't handle it. And I mean, it makes perfect sense. He's dealing with legitimate military, you know, to get some of these things, and then you have to go through this psychological freaking demented storyline, and then you see these characters play it so well. You know, like, there's one thing if, like, these were bad actors and, like, they didn't play the role well, but the fact that, like, they played it so well just makes it seem so much more like.
No, yeah, the acting in this movie was incredible, and that's another credit to not only the actors but Francis Ford Coppola's direction. It's so clear that he knows exactly what he wants out of each character, and he gets it out of each character no matter what. One of the characters in this movie who I was like, a couple of them that I was just like, you're fucking kidding me. Like, they make it here. Chef and the surfer who loses his mind a great deal after he has a bad acid trip.
This movie really, they did a lot of risky things that, like, I wouldn't have thought to be in a movie in 79. Like, I don't know, it took a lot of, I mean, it is a war film, so
right.
There are just certain things. I don't know. This is like a different war film, though. This just felt like I'm trying to think of the only.
There's a thing here that war movies typically don't do, and it really did, like, the mystery side of it. I really, really wanted to know how it ended. Despite all the like, it was like, obviously it'll end in misery. Like, that's typically how war movies end. Like, and that's, but if you can make me wonder how that's going to come about, then I'm in. And that's typically what war movies lack. I'm just like, I don't want to watch this.
I'm trying to think of any other, like, war movie that I've watched and that I know. And the only one that's popping in my head is 1917. And that movie's just beautiful. Like, the camp, like, the whole, that's a whole, like, different. So I like, I'm not even really comfortable comparing the two, but, like, this, like, it felt real. Like, it just felt, I don't know. It was very hard to get taken out of this movie. Like, right. You're in. Like, you're strapped in, and you're like, oh my God, like, this is insane. And I don't know, even, like, Chef's, like, character, like, he has this one part of the movie where he's like, I just wanted to be a chef. Like, I didn't even want to come here. Like, I didn't sign up for, the tiger. Yeah, when the tiger came out, and he just, like, broke down. And I'm like, dang, whole.
That was, like, some of the realest shit in the movie, you know, because it was like, it can just be one thing that's, like, too much. That's it. That's that. I'm done. And that happens on a much smaller scale.
Like, that makes sense
to everybody.
Like, I could see how a soldier can get lost in, like, the person versus person
just wanted to be a chef, man.
Like killing people, like, you got, like, there's already something that you got to accept, but, like, if a tiger comes out and attacks you, that's, like, a true wake up call. Like, that, like, as a soldier, like, you're not expecting a tiger, you know, to come out and attack you. But man,
tigers where the line is drawn.
Yeah, that was one of the moments where, like, a lot of this got me thinking of the legitimate, like, Vietnam War and, like, just war in general. And, like, just one aspect, like, just being drafted, you know, like, that's just gotta, like, that's gotta suck.
That occurred to me during this too, where I was just like, you just got picked, and then, like, you had to go fire weapons at other people in the name of country.
Thank you to our current military for being big enough to where we don't need a draft, like, ever. If we ever go to, like, that is one aspect where, thank you, you know, we have enough volunteers to where we won't be drafted, probably, hopefully. I don't know. I hope we never go to war ever again. At least in my lifetime, please.
God, that'd be nice.
And hopefully many to come, but yeah, that, I don't know. This, every character, they like, you had a deep dive into all of them. Like, you really felt for each of them. Like,
well, and, like, and the perfect examples of that are even the Playgirls, the Playboy girls that they bring in.
Forgot about that part of the movie.
That part of the movie, like, where they're the USO tour performance, where they're up on stage dancing for them and stuff, and they are also ravenous and depraved and so fed up with the life that they are in that they're like, I will risk it all right here, right now, to be with you. And it's like, God damn. There's just so many problems on all sides when it comes to, like, just the military in general. Just because, like, you can't, like, no matter what, war is going to take its toll. It's not like it's regardless of how strong you are mentally, physically, anything. It does not matter. War is horrifying. So, like, it's going to take its toll. And, like, it shows just how out of touch these men can become.
Just no morality anymore. Like
no
it's
sense,
just
no sense of what's right or it's just like
dehumanization, basically.
it
Like,
is. It absolutely is.
is in a word, like that can be if I could sum up war in a word, as dehumanization. Like the soldiers are dehumanized. Both, countries who are fighting, the civilians of each countries are like, well, is the whole world gonna blow up now? If just these dudes up in the White House decide to, like it's just dehumanizing. Yeah, like that. And this movie picks that up. Like it shows you how these people can really just become so dissociated with
And
any
like there
feeling.
was that when we go to them later on in the movie, whenever they're on the boat and they happen upon their little camp and they're like, I traded some fuel for like 15 minutes with the ladies here. And these ladies are desperate for someone to talk to. Like, please, for the
It
love
was
of God,
sad.
listen to me.
Yeah.
And like they're just like actively undressing them and putting them in poses wherever they want and stuff. Like it's like, oh my God, there's just so much dehumanization. You're exactly right. Like it's objectification to the highest level, to the biggest degree.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it was so difficult to watch at that part of the movie, but like it at the same time, you knew it was so important to the story they were telling. Like it was just another side of that. I'm so glad you said that, the dehumanization. Like that's the theme of this movie, is becoming less human. Everyone in the movie does.
Kurtz, like that, just like the final, I mean, it's only like 30 minutes, maybe less than I'd say less than an hour that Kurtz.
Oh, certainly.
Up,
it's like 40
sure.
minutes left in the movie, 35, 30. It's somewhere around there.
Man, like just the way he spoke and the words he used, and like
he was a poet warrior, like it's so fascinating, and to get the cult angle in here as well. Another angle of the dehumanization, where it's like, we're all servants to this guy. It doesn't matter. Our lives don't matter. It's up to him. Like, that's just another side of it. And cults are so fascinating.
They really are.
Because this is a real thing. Like,
it's a very real thing,
people latch on to other people who are just normal people and go, this person has a connection to God, or is God, or
yeah, like if we wear these Nikes and put on a purple thing and drink this Kool-Aid, we'll all go up in the spaceship. And like, to make someone believe something like that, for one,
you have to break them down.
Yeah, like it's not like you're a good salesman or like you just know the right words to say. Like, no, there has to be something, like you have to flip a switch in someone, like completely. Like cults are very interesting. Like, it's honestly, this is weird to say, it's impressive that these like cult leaders can do that. Like,
no, I get what you're saying. Like, it's so unfathomable to me. Like,
yeah,
I can't imagine following someone like that. Like, that's another thing, is that like nobody can. Like, I don't think it's like someone like wakes up and is like, you know what I might do this week? I might join a cult, like, and if they do, they have a whole other problem going on, but like, like I can't imagine following someone like that. I it's just like, no, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
And B, I can't imagine being so, what's even the word for this guy that gets people to follow him and listen to him? And like, is it just fear? Like, are they afraid of him? Because like, it's clear that it's like, there's a degree of it where none of them ever know if they're safe. Like, even the guy who was like, he's a poet warrior, he's like, he almost killed me yesterday. Yeah, That was pretty intense. But love him. Love him to death.
Gotta do everything he says, no matter what, without question. Like, it's just not human anymore. You're taking all the aspects of that make you human and just, whoop. Biggest cult, I guess, is like the military. If you really want to,
and see,
it's pretty much the same thing.
It's kind of the statement. It's kind of the statement that's kind of made in every war movie, is that like, and what sucks is that it's just often it's a blind allegiance thing. Mm-hmm. And I think a good example of the blind allegiance would be Clean. Like, just being like, you're goddamn right, let's fucking do this thing. And then there's the reluctant, like, goddamn, this sucks, but what the fuck am I gonna do? Like, Chef,
you can't go home, like,
yeah, and like Chief, really, like, Chief is like, he doesn't seem interested at all. He doesn't want to be here, but it's his job, and he's here, so like, he's gonna do his job. And like, it's interesting because they all did provide a unique perspective on what was happening, and I think that Martin Sheen's character, what was his name?
Willard, is that, or Willard. Yeah, Willard.
Yeah, Ben Willard. His character's perspective on the war was definitely the most fascinating, because it was clear that he clearly didn't like it. Like, he clearly wasn't on board, but he also was very clearly in search of a power that he didn't possess over himself. Like, it's like,
and it's interesting because we came into his character like, already he's been through war and he has PTSD. We don't see him.
He finished a tour. And
we don't see him before. So like, this guy's already been through it, and like, he needs like it to survive. If he's just at home,
he's going through hell.
Yeah, it's basically even worse than actually. I don't know. Yeah, it's just a double-edged sword. No matter what you do, like, it won't be good. Like, it's just so sad. Like, once you've been through war, there's not much you can do. Like,
and there's so many issues with our military industrial complex. Like, it's like, why don't we have free college? Why don't we have free college? So that there's people who can't afford to go to college. And if there's people who can't afford to go to college, they need an outlet. They need a way to get money. How are they going to make that money? How are we going to live? What am I going to do? I'll join the military. They'll support me then. Okay, I've gone to war. I'm back. Maybe I have a slew of mental health issues. I'm not going to have health insurance to help me out, though. Not any good shit. That's for sure.
Nope.
And obviously I'm not a veteran. I don't want to speak to the veterans' experience or anything. I'm sure there are plenty of veterans who might say, they had a very different experience. But from the outside looking in, and like, having known people who have been at war, having a grandpa who was in the Vietnam War, like, it seems pretty clear that nobody's having a good time. You know what I'm saying? Like,
nope.
And if you are, again, you got a whole other thing going on.
It's spend a whole lot of money on our military.
Yeah, we do.
And I think we're like 70-something% of all the money on the earth that's spent on the military. We have 70% of that. And then with our own budget every year, I think our military spending's like, for some reason, it's clicking like, it's either like 40 or 60. It's either a majority or it's right under a majority.
Gotcha.
I think. I don't know. But
it's just so fascinating that we've managed America is the greatest propaganda machine in the world. The fact that a great many people around the country can see it as twisted and a failure to provide your citizens with comfort instead of them working for it all the time and like providing them with the necessities of life. We shouldn't be pouring money into that. But hey, if we spend trillions on the military, we'll be fine. What? Like, it's crazy because we really never gave up on the peace means having the bigger stick.
No, yeah, we will.
Ideology.
That will. I don't think that will ever change. Honestly, what we need to happen, which is not good, is like we need to lose. We've never we lost the Vietnam War, but we didn't really like lose. Like we just were in there.
Well, because it was like there's all that shit where it was like it was never technically.
Yeah, like we lost, and people don't like to admit it. I don't know like why. Like we definitely lost, but like as like the world leader, like we've never had like a truly devastating. I guess Vietnam was devastating. People just don't like to admit it, but like. We need to be humble.
And that's another thing is that like there have
like,
been various like that's another example of how America is such an incredible propaganda machine. There have been various devastating periods in our history in which we are an absolute evil, in which we have absolutely taken losses. And it's like, however, you know, you go to elementary school and you say the Pledge of Allegiance 5 times a week.
That is... Talk about another cult. Like,
bro,
that's cult.
We said that shit every single day.
That's
when I was in elementary school.
That is weird to think of now. Like, we didn't think anything of it, you know? We were kids. Like, yeah, we say the Pledge of Allegiance. Honestly, like, we got excited. Like, it's so... We got excited to, like, say it. Like even like sometimes like
let's do the pledge.
Yeah,
like it's like an exciting thing. Like it was like a
the students were like like when we got old, you know, like into 5th grade, 4th grade.
Well, and that's the only reason we don't do it every day in high school. In high school, we still did it once a week though.
We did
every Monday when you got to school, you were supposed to do the pledge.
Whoa. Like, I get like a national anthem, like a before like a, you know, like that's like an event, you know, that's not an everyday thing. That's like something, you know, where to represent like your country, whatever. But like a pledge before to start the day, like what, like, is it like a, do you, I kind of
what else could that possibly be for besides indoctrination?
Does it end with amen or no? I'm blanking. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and trust for all.
Okay, so it just ends with that. Okay,
but it does say one nation under God.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, it's like basically the closest you can get to a prayer. That's like not a prayer. Like it's basically the American version of a prayer. Like
no, it is really fascinating how American ideals are so closely tied to Christianity and like you know, like it's in our pledge. One nation under God. Capital G. Like,
and we're open to all religions
and like in our First Amendment, there's the freedom of religion. It's like, yeah, sure, absolutely. But if you're going to be president, you better put your hand on this Bible, though.
That's true. That is, wow.
You're going to be president, you better put your hand on this Bible, though.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just fascinating. It's just fascinating. But that another credit to this film. It just makes you think.
Oh yeah.
It provokes thoughts, like, because that's really what it's about. Is like it's about the way we treat the dehumanization of our military, of our soldiers, and how it affects them negatively.
War sucks.
War sucks, and it will always suck.
Yeah, And that's like so sad that like we dropped 2 bombs. 2. Like the one was already enough. The way I was thinking is these villages that we see, like there's a school and we see like children and the women like all having to like run away as the helicopter's like approaching. And it made me think of like how many civilians just died during war. But then like the bombs, like that's a city. Like that's like just civilians. Like straight up just a city.
And that's so evil.
And
that's
we did
so
it
evil.
Twice. Like
and what's worse is like that's not like, obviously those are the 2 biggest events in which it's like those were so clear cut what was trying to be done, obvious intention. But the amount, like as recently as, I mean, all the presidents, but like Obama, people fondly remember Obama. More drone strikes than any president of all time, which meant more accidental drone strikes on civilians.
That's true. That's a whole nother, like, we see Hiroshima and Nagasaki as like massive civilian loss, but it's just like at one time. The thing, like, it's just spread out.
We've done that several times.
It's just spread out.
Yeah.
And like, it's just true. It's just evil in both ways, you know, like it's not good either way. Like,
oh no, it's painful. It's painful. It's just nobody wins and nobody will ever win. And that's like, and what I said there, you know, like people remember Obama fondly and like with good reason. Like he's about as presidential of a president as we've had, was as charismatic as they get, as seemingly kind and nice and someone to be proud of in the United States presidency. But it is just an inherently evil position. Like there's just nothing you can do to avoid it unless you are instilling major change. Like major change.
It's almost,
and I know you got to play the game. You got to play the game.
Like we're too deep. We're too far in, you know, like if we wanted to just say like, we're going to take back like all our stuff, you know, we're going to chill out. Like the world would be like, no, we don't trust you. Like, yeah, right. You know, like even if we truly had like a president that wanted to do that, like the world wouldn't, like, they'd be like, sure.
Come on. You're just withdrawing all your military all of a sudden. Okay, expect a worldwide invasion.
You know, that's like we have embassies everywhere. And like how many like embassies are here? You know? How many embassies do we have in the United States?
And like, see, that's the thing, is that like we probably have plenty, but they're going to be in cities like New York.
Yeah.
And like,
but we have US embassies
everywhere.
And like anywhere that we can have anything, like
we have it there. I mean, I know we talked about this like months ago on a Patreon or something, but like, you ever see foreign soldiers? Do you ever see foreign soldiers? People in other countries see American soldiers all the fucking time. That's like
only war that we've had here. I mean, obviously the Civil War, but any
Spanish American.
So, but yeah, every
1812.
It's always been somewhere else though. Like if it's not internal, like basically when it's the world that's like in focus. Yeah. We've never had like
well, and it's interesting because like that could be viewed, and obviously we do have events like 9/11, which was an act of war, which acted on civilians, and that's happened a couple of times as far as the public knowledge is concerned. But we don't got nothing like 18 million people lost at once, man.
Can you imagine if a atomic bomb hit New York? Like that's the crazy difference, is that people see an atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima as like, okay, but then you see it like, oh, New York, oh, like, yeah, right, like that's horror, like you couldn't drop one on New York, like it's just like, like there's a disconnect, like it's not the same thing, it's the same exact thing,
and
like,
it's not, and like that's the propaganda of nationalism. Like it's just not as big a deal if something happens somewhere else.
It's crazy.
And
what a movie.
Again, that's a, like, our media machine keeps you focused on internal struggle and like what's going on here. And there are outlets you can get worldwide news. That's definitely, but you do have to go get it.
Mm-hmm. Very weird. Yeah, what an interesting time we live in too. Like it feels like people are waking up now.
And it certainly does, and it's interesting because I think social media is like all in all terrible and absolute evil. But you cannot deny that the way that the internet has accelerated things and social media has accelerated things and made things faster, that I don't think it is, like, obviously people are waking up. Like, it's so much easier to see how terrible things are. And like, there's this thing where like, I know anxiety and depression have always existed. That's always a thing that has existed throughout history. But do you really think it was ever to the degree that it is now? No.
Like I had a conversation with some friends, and I was like, if I could choose right now, if money just wasn't a problem and I could choose just anywhere to live on Earth, I don't think I'm choosing the United States right now. Like, it's very low on my list. Like, it's not even like it's annoying to live here because we're basically the laughingstock of the world. Everyone's just looking at us and like, look at those idiots. So they just
can't
sucks.
Figure a single goddamn thing out.
Like, we're the most divided. We think that everything that happens in America is happening everywhere else. Like, people think that Europe has the same like problems that we do, but like the problems in Europe is like they just don't have like the infrastructure and like they have. I don't know. Our problems are stupid. Our problems can be easily solved if people just were a little more compassionate. And like,
right.
We think that what happens in the USA is happening everywhere, but like,
and another thing there is that we've created such an individualist society. Like, it's like, look out for you. Like, it's just really fascinating. It's like, you have to create your destiny. You got to manifest that shit. That's on you. And there's only one place where that's possible. In America. Take pride in where you're from. Don't give a shit about your community, but take pride in where you're from. And it's like, it's just a series of mixed messages that are articulately or not so articulately strung about and kind of just like shoved in our face.
I guess we could say a few positives of America. Well, I mean,
I like being able to say all this.
People say that we have good cereal. Like, our food is really like, just because we're like, it makes sense, why our food's better. But like,
and I will say, like,
other than that,
we do have great freedoms. Like other places in the world, I wouldn't have been able to say this into a microphone.
That's true.
And that's like,
fair.
That's cool. I love the freedom of speech. That rocks. It really does. And like, that's the thing, is the idea is there. It just hasn't been properly executed on. Like, the general ideals that America, you are taught to believe in and are indoctrinated to believe is the way America works. everybody's equal and everyone can prosper, everyone has opportunity. In theory, but not in practice. And like that's the problem. Until it is in practice, we'll just be the people who aren't living up to their word. Like we're just basically lying. And it just pisses me off.
Crazy thing about our life is that like we think like we haven't really lived through war, but we've been in war our entire lives, basically.
Our entire lives.
So like it's crazy to think that like that we lived through a war period. I mean, it wasn't to the level. I mean, it kind of is though, and it's insane that we're like downplaying
that disconnected.
Yeah, like we're that like just like oh yeah, our entire lives that we can remember, we've been in war. Like it is, and that's crazy just to say out loud and think.
No, yeah, like when we withdrew soldiers from Afghanistan last year or earlier this year even. I can't remember that. Such a fucking wild couple of years that it's like what the fuck has even happened. But like COVID whenever era. The fuck that happened, there were people that I knew who were like,
"Oh,
we were at war?"
Yeah.
Like we were in a war? Like, yeah.
I think people know that we have a conflict in the Middle East, and that's basically it. Like, I think
it's also
that's like, I mean, that was kind of my growing up. I'm like, yeah, we have something going on in the Middle East. I can't tell you what's really going on though. Like,
no. And that's the thing is that like the conflict in the Middle East, that specific terminology, there's a reason you went with that specific terminology because it's all we've ever fucking heard about the conflict in the Middle East. Nobody can articulate what the conflict in the Middle East is. We just know that there is a fucking conflict. And it's like, what? And it's like, there are people who like,
wow. Yeah.
Is like Israel and Palestine. I won't dive into that now, but it's like, that is like one part of the conflict in the Middle East.
There's so much.
And then it's just like rippling, like.
It was sad whenever like I figured out like what was actually happening of it. Like just like whenever I looked into it, like it was before the release of the soldiers. I don't know. There was like just a time.
Well, there was a lot of talk early on in this year about the Israeli-Pakistan Israeli-Palestine conflict. Yeah. Like there was a lot of stuff going on early on in the year in the Gaza Strip that was just terrible.
And then just knowing like how many soldiers that we had over there and like, man, just it's a war, like a literal war. Like, why are we saying war? Conflict? Like, yeah, like war. It's a synonym basically. We're just, we've been just hidden to say
the way things aren't racist. They are racially motivated.
That's true. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Like we just got to be more,
to the point. Yeah.
We're trying to be too comfortable.
Sugarcoat.
Yeah. That's a good way to yeah.
It's a some bitch. The propaganda machine we live in. But it's effective clearly.
I mean, hey, this movie got us to talk about war for almost an hour straight. Like that's the point. Like
that is the point of the movie. I truly think that's the point of the movie. Like it's
like
because it really was just depicting the downfall of a soldier. Like that's all of them. Nobody saw a rise. Nobody did. It was all downhill.
There was no redemption. Yeah, you had no redemption. Like it, everyone loses. And
Apocalypse Now.
I didn't even think of the title. Yeah, until
no,
it's true. That's a good word. Like it truly is an apocalypse. Like war, like dehumanization and apocalypse are two.
Well, and and now. Like it's not
coming.
Like, it's not coming. It's not in the future. Apocalypse now.
Right now. Yeah, that title makes a lot more sense.
It was a great movie.
Yeah.
and this conversation only really fueled my enjoyment for it, frankly. But I don't have much else to say. I think it was really well written, really well directed, incredibly acted. The soundtrack slaps. Visually very stimulating.
That was the opening sequence was just awesome too. Like the whole this movie was awesome.
So shall we do some ratings?
I think we shall. This one's interesting. Like as a
we're also kicking off March, aren't we? I forgot about that. This is the first episode of March.
This is true. Happy March, everybody! What a great
Happy
month.
March.
This month's just great. No reason in particular, but just a great month to be born in, maybe. Anyway, this month is looking good for movies too.
Yeah, it is.
But as like an enjoyment, like there's part of the war movies that like you just kind of don't enjoy because like the Playboy part, like that just sucks to watch. All like just civilians dying and stuff like that. But like. This was a different...
it's still high. Like, I still enjoyed watching the movie. It kept me, and I was enthralled. So, like, I'd go, like, a 4. Like, it's definitely not any lower than that. That's like as low as I'd go.
That's fair. I'm trying to think, like...
4 out of 5 stars there.
That seems about right, I'd say. Yeah, I don't think I have any... arguments. I'm trying to think of as a genre, like war film. I mean, this is pretty gold standard for.
This is pretty much as good as it gets. I think as far as I
think this is just going to be a very common trend with all of these movies because like it's one of the best movie, if not the best movie of the year, and the genre like it makes sense that a lot of
we've gotten a lot of 5 out of 5s in the genre because like they just define the genre. But yeah, I'd go 5 out of like this is a 5 out of 5 war film. Like this is like I can hardly articulate for you a better way to execute a war film. Like this is as good as it gets for me.
Yeah, man, out as a critical film rating. This is it's up there. Like
it's a good movie.
It's a great movie.
No, it's like a really, really good movie. Like I want to go like 4.75. Like 4.8.
I was up there. Like yeah, I'm up there. Like it's 4.6 at like the least.
Yeah.
I'd say like I was floating more around 4.7, 4.75 is what I was probably floating around. Trying to think. Like visually beautiful, the story beautiful, like
the acting,
like I can't think of an aspect of this that suffers. Actually, like I guess it's just because we watched the extended version, though.
It's a little long, yeah.
Like I guess, but like. Of the original, I'm very curious to what's cut out.
Like what wasn't in the original cut of this movie.
I'm sure we wouldn't miss anything. I don't think there's part of the story that like is made so much better by this extended version.
No, I don't think so either. And that's really where I'm like, it's not a 5. Like it's just like it's because this isn't perfect. There were parts where I was like, all right, let's keep it rolling. Let's get going here because I'm kind of like, what the fuck is even going on actually at this moment? I don't completely understand.
I'd say like a 4.7,
4.75. I'm cool with 4.7. I think that's a fair place to put it.
All right, that gives it an average of 4.57, which it's pretty good. That seems about right.
That's over a 9. That's a 9 out of 10.
So, I guess now if we want to look back to previous months, this is a little bit above 36 Chamber of Shaolin. That was a 4.45. Star Wars, obviously a 5. So this ranks actually. There's only 1, 2, 3
movies better.
4 movies better. Star Wars, Jaws,
And both the
Godfather,
Godfathers.
yeah, part 1 and 2. Those are the only movies that rank better than it.
And you know what? Hearing what movies rank better than this, I go, those are the correct 4 movies to have better than this.
And then a movie that's barely a little worse, you have
Clockwork Orange.
Yeah. So Clockwork Orange and 36 Chamber are really close. So like that makes sense. You have MASH down there. So that one. Yeah, like this a 4.57 I think makes sense for this movie.
I think so too.
It was great.
I think so too.
And for a 3-hour movie to hold you in to watch it all like first time, like that does say something of the movie.
Oh, absolutely. And I think Francis Ford Coppola can be credited for that a lot. His directorial style is just, it's enthralling. It keeps you, you're in the universe
He
regardless
really cares
of what
about the
it is.
characters.
Yes.
The characters and their stories like are very crucial. And I'm glad that like they didn't just focus on the explosions and killing, like a lot of war movies do. Like people just want to, like a movie like 300. Like a lot of people like the movie 300 because of all the fight sequence, like the blood, and the sword fights. But then like you look at the actual story that's happening during 300, and you're like, oh, like yeah, it's
devastating.
Like, yeah, I mean it's a good movie, I'd say, but like compared to this, like Apocalypse Now is just leagues above.
Just so much better.
Yeah, so I think that's fair. I think I've said everything I wanted to say about it.
I think so too. It was, I mean, and like I said at the top, not a big war movie guy.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly my bag. And for this to have, like I said, I wanted to watch it in 3-hour installments, and I watched it all in one sitting. Mm-hmm. And if you can do that, get me to change my plans, then you did good. Like you did good. That was a good fucking movie. But yeah, I don't have anything else to say. That concludes the 70s, baby.
70s are over. Wow.
Man. Already.
What a decade of film.
What a decade of film. And we'll just we'll get to look back and ogle all over it. Just be like, oh God, that was beautiful. This was great. Let's talk about it. And the Penny Bloom 70s Awards, where the only pool of films are the 10 we discussed throughout the 70s. We'll have a Best Director, Best Writer, Best Actor, Best Actress, maybe even Best Film. Kind of easy to determine based off ratings and stuff. But yeah, it'll all be over there.
A decade score of a 4.35 of the entire decade.
A decade score of a 4.35. Okay. The 70s coming in hot with a 4.35. And we've only got good shit to look forward to in the 80s. Starting next week, second week of March, we're jumping into 1980. And where better to start than with the guy whose movie we did talk about in the 70s? Stanley Kubrick, The Shining.
I cannot wait for you to see this movie.
I'm so excited for this. And 81, I think we got Raiders of the Lost Ark. We've got a lot of good stuff to look forward to, especially in this month of March. It's going to be a fucking good one. But yeah, I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, buddy.
Thank you for having me. It is always a pleasure to be here.
And it's always a pleasure to have you. And obviously, I'll talk to you next week for 1980's The Shining. In the meantime, head to patreon.com/CoroBloom, where you'll find well over 21 hours of exclusive content, not available anywhere else, over 32 exclusive installments of Patreon content. There's also a bunch of artwork I put over there, not available anywhere else. Typically artwork involving Star Wars or Marvel characters. Sometimes I'll branch out, but that's mostly what it is, just because I'm usually hype off of whatever's new that I've been watching lately, and it's usually something Star Wars or Marvel related. So can't wait for you to go check that out. Again, head over to the 70s Awards show, where we just, again, look back on the 70s as a whole, and, well, not as a whole, 70s of the 10 movies we watched. and we'll give you some overall feedback on the decade. Go to Twitter and follow at Penny Bloom Pod. Head to Instagram and follow at Penny Bloom Podcast. And remember, peace, love, and bloom. And I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Of course, had to be.
Had to. It was like, I know it was the obvious one, but it was the right one. It was the right one.
Had to.